Oh well. Hello and welcome to the February 2023 episode of the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast. My name's Leslie and this is a podcast about knitting, crochet, spinning, anything yarny, which I record on the south coast of the UK. I record throughout the month, put the pieces together and post on the last weekend of the month. I also have a weekly vlog, Not Quite Enough. It started off as Not Quite Enough Distance because it started off during Corona lockdowns, but it's now Not Quite Enough whatever I'm short of. The reason why the Not Quite Enough yarn thing started is that I often have not quite enough to finish a garment. So you can see I've got cupboards of yarn behind me, but they're often individual balls or skeins, very rarely a sweater quantity. So I put in stripes, blocks, fades, you name it, I'll put yarns together. So that's how that all started. Thank you for being here, whether you're a first-time viewer or you're back for more. Thank you. Your company is appreciated, it really is. I haven't got any make-alongs on at the moment. That may change as the year goes on, but for the moment there are lots of others happening. So if you like a make-along, there are plenty to be had. But I do have a finished object. Ba-ba! So I started this between Christmas and New Year, and this is a sweater for my sister, and it's the Ranunculus by Midori Hirose. I have a green one of these, also with the stripes, and my sister liked it, so she asked for something similar. It's a very loose fitting sweater, and I have made this to fit I think a 48-inch chest, but not quite as oversized. My sister is a very active person. She chops wood up for the fire, she plays golf, she does gardening. She's not going to want an excess of knitted fabric if it's cold enough to wear this while doing any of those activities. So I've kept it a little, I mean, it's certainly not tailored or fitted, but I've stopped it being quite so oversized. I put a little bit less ease than the pattern usually calls for. Other modifications, that wasn't really a mod. The only real modification I made, well, there are two, because there always are. I made it longer than the original pattern. It's a cropped sweater originally. She's not someone who wears cropped sweaters as a rule, and also she's taller than me, so she'll want a longer sweater. And the other modification that I made is there is a texture pattern in here which I didn't bother with. I thought in this dark a yarn it's not going to show up too well, and as I was putting the coloured stripes in, I thought there wasn't a lot of value in adding that. The other little thing I've done is in the back there, you can see I've used one of my ends, I've woven it in just so that it's easy to see the back from the front, because there is shaping on this, but I know with my one it's easy to just pull it out of the cupboard and put it on the wrong way round. So this way, well, I mean, I've also sewn up the back neck quite badly. When I'm working in the round, I normally do a few rows flat before I join in the round. I just find I'm much less likely to then twist my stitches, so that's why I do that. And in this case I sewed it up not very neatly, so that's also a sign that this is the back. So the yarns, I can't give you an awful lot of detail. The main yarn is a huge skein of yarn that I bought at the Knitting and Stitch show in Alexandra Palace about 10 or 11 years ago. It's 100% wool, that's all I know. The green ranunculus that I made for myself is the same yarn, and it was about a sort of 1,000-metre skein of yarn. I'm not quite sure what this gesture means, but And I have some left for all my not quite enoughs. I've quite a bit left. This is a loose gauge sweater. I use 6mm needles with double knitting weight yarn, so it is a loose gauge. I think it's something like 14 stitches to 4 inches or 10 centimetres. So you don't use as much yarn. It's very simple. So that's the main yarn, and I have quite a bit left. That will be used, of course. The stripes are kind of oddments mostly. So we've got some Classic Elite here, got some Emma's yarn there, Fruitful Fusion, Lana Stop, Easy Knit. These are all leftovers from previous projects, and I had enough to do the odd stripe in colours that I thought went well together. I haven't blocked it. I finished it the other day. I've got to take it to deliver it to her today. Well, she'll pick it up in a couple of days. Long involved story at the moment. So I haven't blocked it because I thought by the time it's dried it would be too late to take it to her, and I'd rather she had it. So here it is, the Ranunculus by Midori Hirose. It's the second one I've made because I have my green one, and I'm sure it won't be the last one I've made. It's an easy pattern. There's some short row shaping around the neck, which makes it sit nicely across the back neck. And it's fairly adaptable because you can just, you know, adjust the length. The sleeves, I'm pretty sure I've made more fitted than the original pattern. I tend to work on I tend to prefer a more fitted sleeve, and whether she does or not, so does my sister now. Again, she's a very active person, so she's not going to want a lot of fabric flapping around while she's out with the dog, or, you know, all the things that she does. So I shall pack this up. She's on instruction that it is 100% wool, so it needs to be hand washed, or at least the hand wash program of her washing machine. Otherwise it will fit our great niece, and it's not the sort of colours I normally use for our great niece. So I hope she likes it. I hope it fits. I hope she gets use of it. Cheers. Hello, lovelies. I'm wearing my Whatever sweater by Julie Knits in Paris, which was made of all sorts of scraps plied with some fine viscose yarn. I'll put the details below, but that's pretty much it. Mai himself has been on his holidays, and he went to Florida, where our nephew is studying on a golf scholarship. And himself stayed in Jacksonville Beach, and he went to St. Augustine, which is down the coast, I believe. A title that made me laugh, because where I grew up, St. Augustine's was the name of a large psychiatric hospital. But I digress. He went to Fran's Knitting Boutique in St. Augustine and bought some yarn because he's very kind. So I'm going to show you what he bought. He also bought some chocolate. That's downstairs. If it was upstairs, I'd be eating it. So let's just stick with the yarn. So this first is from Teresa Ruch. I'm going to say Ruch because it's R-U-C-H, and if it was Rich, R-I-C-H. Anyway, you can see what I mean. Teresa Ruch Designs. And this is dye-painted 100% Tencel yarns. 5/2, 4 ounce, 520 yards. Light fingering, heavy lace. And it's a lovely... My camera tends to show green things as more blue than green. But this is... If you can imagine this slightly greener, slightly more towards teal, we're kind of there. And it's rather fabulous. It's got a lovely sheen to it. So that's the first one. The second one is green, and actually that's not showing up too bad. It's a sort of good emerald green. This is Variations DK by Friendly Product, and this is 100% superwash merino. Australian merino, 100 grams, 225 yards, in the colourway Emerald Waters. Rather lovely. Got another lovely blue here. Now this is Plymouth Reserve Reserve Sport Solid in the colourway navy. It's showing up a little light, it's a little darker, but rather lovely. So that's a sport weight, 100 grams, 348 yards. Got this very pretty variegated yarns. This is Araucania Huasco sock, hand painted, and this is in the Inca J colourway. You can see we've got browns, we've got pinks, blues, sort of cream colour, lots of speckles on that. So very pretty. And the final one is also Araucania. This is the Kettle dyed sock. I mean, look at that. That's a bit fabulous. And that is in the blackberry colourway. So gorgeous purple there. So I'm a very lucky girl. Don't know what I'm going to do with these. The Tencel, it feels very different to the other yarns, and I think it would make a really nice wrap. So that's my thought process on that. But as to the others, I will see what inspires me. I have some sort of purples and lilacs in the stash, so this could become part of a fade. But just kind of letting ideas float around the grey cells at the moment. So, but all rather fabulous. He said it was quite a nice shop, quite small. He's quite the yarn shop aficionado. He said this place is quite small, but as you can see, he managed to get a nice selection of yarns. So good for him, and good for me. Hello, lovelies. Apologies for the croakiness. I've had a cold. I'm kind of over it in so many ways of that, using that phrase, but I'm still a little bit croaky, and it's Friday evening as I'm recording this, so you know it's the end of the week is kicking in. But, and I've just realised I'm such a good knitting podcaster, I'm wearing a commercial machine-made cardigan. I'm going to show you a couple of sweaters, and these are ones that I have made better this week. That's a relative term. For me, making them better means making them more how I want to wear them. You may be looking at them thinking, I preferred them as they were before. Absolutely your choice. The first is the Lovenote. So these are both sweaters you've seen before, but I've altered them slightly. So here's my Lovenote. I will put all the details of all the yarns below. There's some Noro, there's some Countess Ablaze, there's some Fruitful Fusion, Perrin yarns, West Yorkshire spinners. The details will be linked below. But this is the Lovenote by TinCan Knits. I made this second half of last year sometime, and as soon as I finished it I thought, I'm not sure about this, because the fit of the sleeves is quite loose. I mean, it's a very oversized sweater anyway, it's meant to be a loose fitting item, but the sleeves were also very loose, and that's not the style of things that I like to wear. I prefer something, well, like this commercial one, sort of quite tapered and fitted. So I wore it for a few months to see if I liked it, but I'll be honest, I felt like Coco the Clown wearing it. It just felt very sort of Pierrot. And I thought, I can keep moaning or I can do something about it. So I unpicked the sleeves back to where the split for the sleeves was made. There was a bit of fudging involved in kind of getting this to work, because what you've also got are the sleeves, sorry, the stitches that are increased for the point between basically your armpit. So you've got the width there for the body and the underside of the sleeve. And I didn't want to unpick the whole sweater, so I picked up the stitches at the beginning of the sleeve and then did some fairly rapid increases, so every round for a few rows, and then just some fairly regular, I keep saying increases when I mean decreases, sorry, decreases every round for a few rounds, and then every third round or whatever it was I did. I've put a picture in here after I'd done one sleeve, so you can see how big the sleeve was initially compared to the alteration that I've made. Now, it's possible that I've gone a little too far on this and that my arms now look like overstuffed sausages, but I prefer wearing it this way. It's not so tight that I can't move, you know, they've still got plenty of movement in here, and I much prefer a close-fitting sleeve so it doesn't get caught on things as I move my arm across the desk or anything like that. So that's my first alteration. So the Lovenote TinCan knits, and I just unpick the sleeves back to where the split for the sleeves was made, and then a lot of decreases and then quite a few decreases. Of course, this meant that I spent a few evenings knitting and have gained yarn. What I've done with the little balls, because there's kind of 3 or 4 different types of yarn in here, I've wound up little balls of yarn. Do I have them to hand? Oh, there we go. And these will become part of my advent this year. So we can see some of the Noro there. I could do the sensible thing and steam it and decrinkle it, but I probably won't, let's be honest. Last year I made my own advent, and I'm doing the same this year, double knitting weight yarn, so those little balls will be perfect. And by December I'll be thinking, oh, I wonder where they came from, because that's my usual. But that's my first item made better for me. The second is an older sweater, and this is the Ursa by Jacqueline Sislak. And the fit of this I've always really liked. It has darts for the bust. It just feels like a nice fitting sweater. But for one thing, and again this is my taste, I always found the neck too wide and too low. I don't like things with a lot of clavage. One doesn't like to frighten the horses. So if I'm wearing this with nothing underneath it, it just felt as if it was like, hello everybody. And if I'm wearing it with a shirt underneath it, which is how I wear a lot of my sweaters, there would be this great big kind of shirt area before we get to the collar, and it just didn't feel right. It's partly this designer's aesthetic. Jacqueline Sislak does a lot of very good designs, and a lot of thought goes into the fit for things like length of torso, how much bust shaping is needed, those sorts of things. But their particular style is to have wide necks and large neck holes, if you like. So some of the other designs, patterns that I have from them, same sort of thing. So that's something to kind of be aware of when I'm making them. This was relatively easy to solve. The initial neckline on the Ursa is just a very narrow piece. So very quickly done, very narrow. So I just unpicked that and put a regular V-neck in, put a regular neckband, and it was enough to bring it in and take some of that depth out as well. And of course I'm going to run out of battery, but I have a spare. Where was I? I was showing you the neckband on my Ursa. The yarn for the initial item, and bearing in mind I made it all in one yarn, hello, and this was some James C. Brett Marble Chunky that from memory I'd been given, and I'd been given enough to make the whole sweater, which I did. It's I think it's 100% acrylic, but it's a lovely light yarn, really airy, warm, cosy, really nice yarn. I did have a ball of this left over when I finished the sweater, and I gave it away. I wasn't expecting to need it. I didn't want a matching hat. One ball of chunky weight yarn in colours that aren't usually the sort of colours that I go for. I tend to be more this end of the colour wheel, or this side of the colour wheel, than these autumnal colours. So it made sense to give it away. And yes, it's a little frustrating that I did that, but then it gets the old grey cells going. So I had a look at what could I possibly use, and I do have some Wool and the Gang alpaca chunky, which I'll put a picture in because it's upstairs. But that is quite, well, I think the colour name is cinnamon something. So it's quite an orangey brown, and I didn't really want orange kind of right here. But I remembered that in the stash I do have, and this is double knitting weight, Wendy Ramsdale, which is 100% wool, I think. Yes, it is. The other thing that I was thinking of is the Marble Chunky is a marled yarn. So the colours change, but at all points you've got at least 2 plies, I think it's 2 plies, spun together. So I wanted to keep that kind of marled look, and I found in the stash, and this is some that I'd been given as part of when I've been given a stash sort of thing. And it's a brown, as you can see, with orange kind of tweedy bits, orange and yellow tweedy bits. And going on the weight, I've not measured it, but my guess is it's a kind of sport weight. Possibly a fine DK, possibly even a thicker 4-ply, but it feels kind of sport weight. So the two of these together gave me the weight of yarn that I wanted and that marled effect. And also the two of them together toned down the brightness of the green. So I think I've kind of got away with it, really. Yes, if I'd used the Marble Chunky, it would have been exactly the same, and there probably would have been a stripe in the neckband because of the length of the colour changes. But I'm kind of happy with that. That works for me. So I'm delighted that this sweater now feels more usable for me, and is going to become an even greater staple in the wardrobe. So a week when I didn't sort of feel as if I'd done much in terms of, you know, here's the sweater I was making last week and now it's this much longer and all of that. But 2 items that were kind of not being used as much as they could have been will now be. Almost a sentence. Hopefully you know what I mean. What else has been going on? I have my my book. All of the yarn prizes that I announced last month have been claimed. Thank you very much to those of you who won and who claimed. Apologies that I haven't been able to send them out. If you watch anyone who's a British podcaster who is wanting to send prizes at the moment, we've had a problem. Royal Mail had a cyber incident, and they basically put a hold on all parcels being sent outside of the UK. I tried to send the parcels off about a week ago. I was told that it could be the beginning of March. This is what the guy at the post office said he'd been told. I will obviously be keeping a check on it and will be sending out the parcels as soon as I can. The people who won, I have let them know, and they've all been terribly sweet about it, so thank you very much. I will get the things to you as soon as I can. No. But there has been loveliness, because people are lovely. You may remember when I was announcing the prizes last month that 2 pattern prizes were won by the same person. And this was username Kelly's Creek, who is someone called Martha. And I was more than happy for Martha to claim both prizes, because normally my pattern prizes are up to, I think it's $12 US, but I said more than happy for you to have both prizes, or if there's an ebook or a more expensive pattern and you want to combine the prizes, absolutely fine with me. Well, Martha very kindly emailed me, and she emailed me on notquiteenoughyarn@gmail.com, because I don't think I've mentioned the email address this month, thanking me and delighted to have won, but saying don't need any more prizes at the moment, so I'd be very happy for the prizes to be redrawn. So thank you, Martha, that is very, very generous of you. I have done as requested, and so the first one for the December mal was post number 81, who is Hikes and Bikes, and that's Nikki in Oregon. And Nikki's post was commenting on someone else's project. So Nikki, please do get in touch with me, either knittingordeath on Ravelry, email me notquiteenoughyarn@gmail.com, DM me on Instagram, knittingordeath, just some way that I can get hold of you, or you can get hold of me, and I can get hold of you. We can hold each other, and I can let you have the pattern of your choice. I then did the draw for the other pattern prize, and that was post number 470, Hikes and Bikes, Nikki in Oregon. So it's happened again. But what was particularly lovely about this is that post, number 470 in the sweater mail, because that was the draw for the entire year, Nikki was commenting on Martha's finished object. So I thought there was a lovely symmetry there. Not sure if symmetry is the right word, bit of synchronicity. It just felt nice that someone's generosity will be benefited by someone who was saying, that's a fabulous project you made. So yeah, that's made me very happy. Hopefully it's made Nikki very happy. Hopefully it's made Martha very happy. So again, Nikki, please do get in touch. More than happy for you to have 2 patterns, or if there's an ebook or something that you'd like, or there's a more expensive pattern that you'd like it combined, please get in touch, let me know what you'd like, and it will be done. So thank you, Martha. Thank you, Nikki, for taking part. Just get in touch. So that will be fab and groovy. Thank you. 2 other things to talk about. This is going to be a short one this month. Between very high workload and visiting poorly patients in hospital, the family member is doing very well. We're just on a really long, I was going to say journey then. A long course of treatment. They're doing really well, but it's going to be a long time. So I've been visiting hospital. Obviously I didn't go when I was absolutely full of cold, but I have been back now that the cold seems to have gone. I've just got the Barry White voice. So that's obviously curtailed a little bit of knitting time along with the workload. I have got 1 new cast on. So of all the FOs I showed you last month, I haven't done much on both pairs of gloves. The crochet boxy is in the car and I work on it when I'm waiting for appointments. And I've cast it on, because obviously I have. Why would I not? So this is another Nicola Suzanne pattern, and it's one of the Super Maximum Freedom range. So trading under Nicola designs, and there are some which are Maximum Freedom where you do a gauge swatch and then it tells you how to create your garment from that. The Super Maximum Freedom, you don't do a gauge swatch. You take some measurements that you need. You cast on, in this case, just a piece at the back. No, I can't find the back. This isn't helpful. Yep, so it's just a little bit at the back, and then you knit down, and then using the measurements, you kind of knit till you get to the size you want to be, and then you change things and knit to the length you want to be, and so on and so forth. I'm not explaining it well because I don't want to give away the secret. But yes, so this is one of the super maximum freedoms, and this is a pattern called 4. Now, because I'm working in the round, it looks like not much at the moment. So here is a picture of the 4 pattern. I'm also going to show you a picture here of a pattern called Tencel, which again, Nicholas Suzanne, I quite like the neck treatment on that. So I'm thinking of doing the Tencel neck treatment, which is a kind of loose cowl neck type of arrangement. I'm thinking of doing that on the 4. I've had an idea for quite some time. I've got quite a lot of double knitting weight yarn in reds. Reds is a favourite colour. Note to the chair behind me, the laptop, my phone cover, you know, red is a colour I do a lot of. And I've got a lot of double knitting weight, red, some sport weight, you know, a bit of variety in there. And I have thought for a long time about having many shades of red. I think we can use the phrase many shades again now without it being like, actually. Yes, and it's not grey, so we're okay. But I've thought about putting all these reds together to make a garment. And so I've decided this is the garment I'm going to use. So I've started off with some alpaca. And somewhere I have a label. Yeah, somewhere I have a label. So that's some alpaca. I've striped in, it's not going to show up on here. I've striped in some other red that I've got. I'm now putting into it Wendy Ramsdale. And so it's the same yarn as the green that I used on my Ursa neckband. And this was one of these, I know why I bought it, I'm not sure, I should have done yarns. I was in York, which is a lovely city. If you're ever in the north of England, go to York, it's lovely. And there's an area of kind of narrow lanes and small shops called the Shambles. And there used to be a yarn shop in there. And I went in there and they were closing down, which I was very sad to see. And they didn't have a huge amount of stock left. But they had this Wendy Ramsdale. So I bought some. I bought a ball in the red and 2 in the green. Born, bred and made in Yorkshire, so they are local yarns, although it's a bigger company. So that was why I bought it, because the yarn shop was closing down and I felt I ought to buy something. So I'm now using it, many, many years later. So I'm striping this in. The red that I've got the most of is a darker red, more a sort of burgundy colour. So what I'm doing is I'm sort of striping in all my lighter reds, and then I'll put the burgundy in so it kind of fades down to a darker colour. That's the plan. I will show you how I get on as we go along. That's pretty much it for this month. Because of all the time pressures I've been saying about, I haven't had a lot of time to do my homework on the tech editing course I've been doing. So that is still ongoing. I'm sure all my fellow classmates have finished and probably on their 8th tech edit by now. Good for them, I'm not. So I've nearly finished the course. I've got 2 more assignments to hand in, I think. And this course is run by Carol Ibbotson of Cool Wool School. I'll put the details down below because I know some people have asked about that. So it's a knitting tech editing course. So in theory, by the time I've finished, I would be able to tech edit a designer's pattern, to check for consistency, make sure the maths works and that sort of thing. I had an assignment back this week and I did well, so I'm very pleased with myself because I started off with a bit of a clanger and lost confidence very early on, but gaining confidence again, so that's good. So I've got a couple more assignments to go, and then I'll be a qualified tech editor. It's very exciting. Sorry that this is a short one this month. Actually, with this voice, that's probably no bad thing. Yeah, that's just the way we are this at the moment. It's this time of year. My line of work, funerals, does get busy in the first quarter of the year. Sorry to make it sound like a very businessy thing, but it is. Himself is currently away again. He came back from America with lovely yarns. He's currently in España, somewhere between Barcelona and Salou, with his other nephew playing golf. He has a dreadful life, doesn't he? Just appalling. I don't know how he copes. So if he brings back any yarn, and I always make a point of looking for yarn shops in the areas to where he's travelling. Not that I need more yarn. But anyway, if he brings back anything, I'll show you that next month. If there's not so much as a Toblerone from the airport, there'll be trouble. But yarn or chocolate normally works. I'm not as mercenary as I sound. Or maybe I am. Anyway. Yeah, so he's away, so it's just me and the dog for a few days. This month, nothing much planned, just more of the same. Hopefully I'll get more crafting done. Always hope springs. I've got what I call sort of itchy fingers. I still feel like I want to cast on all the things. And I was looking at my queue earlier. I've got some lovely patterns in there. Maybe I should start some of those. There's a couple of crochet items in there that might be a good thing to start, because I've got this on the knitting, so maybe a crochet one would be good. Or I could just work on the works in progress I've got. It's radical, but it might work. Anyway, I am rambling and waffling, but thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all your comments, your thoughts, your observations. I do love to hear from you. Congratulations again to Nikki, Hikes and Bikes. Please do get in touch and let me know the patterns that you'd like. And if you could let me know before the last weekend in March, that would be appreciated, which will be same dates as this month. So yeah, if you could let me know by the 24th, that would be great. Thank you. And I wish you all a very good March. If you're in the southern hemisphere, I hope it's gentle autumn breezes. If you're in the northern hemisphere, I hope things are warming up nicely. And wherever you are, I hope that you're able to do crafting that you love and you're gaining joy from whatever you're working on. So thanks again. Take care, everyone. Look after yourselves. And I'll see you again soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.